It's been a few months since the Target boycott has started, and since it started, it's become one of the biggest boycotts in American history. Since the boycott began in January, Target has lost around $12 billion, according to Pastor Jamal Bryant, who's one of the leaders of the Target boycott. The company has since lost its reputation for being a place of community, a place for liberal minded shoppers, and a place where people could feel safe spending their money. There's been a lot said about the boycott, and as someone who has been watching the boycott the whole time, and I've written about it on my website, I've wanted to make this video to look back at the boycott, at the controversies, and at the conversations it started, especially the conversation around Black capitalism and how it may not really help us after all. Hi, I'm Monique Jones. I run Just Add Color, which is justaddcoloronline.com, a site that focuses on the intersection of race and entertainment and society. I talk about everything from the latest movies, TV, pop culture moments, and of course what's going on with society and social issues, such as Target. And Target was one I did not see coming, actually. I did not see the Target boycott coming. Of course, we have the presidential administration to worry about, and that's all I was thinking about in January. But Target came out of left field, and it was such an interesting case study to me of how Target, as a pop culture icon, uh, saw its cachet just go down the toilet um, in the blink of an eye. And what was so interesting to me is that what seemed to help it go down the toilet so fast was Tabitha Brown talking in defense of Target. So if we're to go on this deep dive of the Target boycott, we have to start with Tabitha Brown. As we all know, Tabitha Brown is a huge voice in Black media. She is a TikToker, Instagram personality. She now has an Emmy-winning children's show. She has tons of products in Target, Amazon, and Walmart. And as someone who has been a fan of hers up until this Target boycott, actually, I have a lot of her products. I have her kitchenware. I have her some of her stationery. I even have her hair care products, which I still have. I've changed to a different set of products, which I'll probably go over later because it does relate to all this. But I have a lot of her products. Still have all of her hair care products. I have a whole host of things by Tabitha Brown, including her cookbook. And also, as a member of the journalism community, I have interviewed her for my day job. So it's been just, Tabitha all the time in my house. And I was devastated to hear how she reacted to the Target boycott, because the boycott itself started from a good place. It started from a place of justifiably emotionally reacting to the CEO of Target saying that they would roll back their DEI initiatives, which includes initiatives that safeguard Black products, ethnic products in general, Black and ethnic creators. It affects the LGBTQ community, anybody who is different, who benefits from DEI. That's what Target was seemingly not interested in anymore. And as we know, if you've been a huge shopper at Target, like I had been, that Target seemed to make its bread and butter off of the fact that it was catering to marginalized communities, and that it welcomed people who had differences of some type. We've seen how they've promoted Black products, which is something else I'll get into, but we've seen how they promoted Black products, how they promoted Asian products, Latino products, how they would like welcome celebrating different cultural days and just have like whole months set out for those cultural days. Um, it was just a lot that they were doing that was really meaningful and made you happy to spend your money at Target. I know for sure for me that I spent a lot of money that I probably didn't even have at Target. Just when I needed something quick, I was just like, well, you know what? I'll go to Target. I'll get it from Target, because the company also just felt like a a bougie yet affordable place. Like there was a sense of, I don't want to say elitism, but there was a sense of feeling, I guess, bigger than your britches in some kind of way. When you shopped at Target, you felt like you might not be able to shop at like Whole Foods all the time, but shopping at Target felt like you were a part of a community. It felt like you were upper echelon in a way. Going to Target became a status symbol. Something I wrote in my article for my website was that it seemed like Target had weaseled its way into black bougie brunch culture. And if you know anything about that, like from how it's presented online, uh, what I'm calling black bougie brunch culture is like, your circle of girlfriends who are going to lunch having mimosa, or going to brunch having mimosas. Um, then, you want to shop and see what's in the stores. And so you go to Target, and there you have your Starbucks, and you can get your Starbucks, and you can, traipse around the store, and oh, look, there's some black hair care. Oh, look, there's some black makeup. Oh, look, there's this made by this black company or this black entrepreneur that I really want to buy. And I have some expendable income. I can just put that in my cart. Oh, wow, we're spending such a great day at Target on a Sunday. Like that kind of feel. And if you've been on social media, you've seen how Target has uh, leveraged their entryway into the black community by giving kudos to black creators, to black influencers, uh, promoting black fashionistas and giving them their own lines. Um, they've really done a lot to make black women in particular feel welcome there. So of course it was a punch to the gut when Target said, well, we're not doing that anymore. We're moving away from that for no reason other than to uh, bow down to Trump before anyone hardly even said anything. Before he barely got in office, it seemed like Target was ready to capitulate, um, and that just didn't sit right with a lot of people, and a lot of people felt justifiably enraged and disappointed and hurt, let down, that a place that extended so much what seemed like grace and care to them just wanted to push them by the wayside when things were getting tough. Let's also keep in mind that with Target having such an entryway into the black community, that's where a lot of their dollars came from. Of course, a lot of other communities shopped at Target too, but let's not forget that Target was using black influencers and black tastemakers to speak directly to the black community, which has for the longest been one of the biggest consumer groups in America. And now it seemed like they were turning that money away. And by extension, they were turning away the morals and the values that came with that money, the morals and the values of that community. So Tabitha Brown is, like I said earlier, she is someone who had a huge presence in the black community, especially with black women. And of course, she's one of the biggest names at Target. So it was interesting seeing her handle this in the way that she handled this, First, I know when she was first trying to address it, she put out a simple Instagram reel of her just like looking, I think, looking perturbed and, basically saying, we're going to address this. And so people were really interested to see what she had to say about the new stance that Target was taking. And so when she finally did break her silence, it was a video that really rubbed people the wrong way, including myself, unfortunately. And I say that, like I said, having interviewed her, and I had a great time interviewing her. And she seemed really genuine and kind in the interview. Um, and so that's what makes this extra unfortunate, because I really was so happy to interview her, and she was one of my, well, I won't go as far to say idol, but like she was one of my, um, on my celebrity list of people that I wanted to talk to, and it was great to talk to her. But this video just kind of soured my feelings about my enthusiasm for her. I'll say it like that, because it seemed like it came from a place of just wanting money. And of course, it's like, well, of course, she's an entrepreneur. She wants money. But in the face of everyone saying, I don't want to shop at Target, in the face of her customers saying, I don't want to shop at Target, it was just a lot to hear her say in so many words, I don't care. At least that's what I heard. It seemed like she was saying, yes, it is terrible what they're doing at Target, and it's awful that they are making these decisions. However, I have these products at Target, and my bottom line will be affected if I'm not selling. And so I need you to go into Target, even though you don't want to, and help my bottom line. That's what I heard. And just so we can go over this, I want to quickly react to Tabitha's video and show you exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm new at making videos, so I'm currently using Restream for this part. But if any of y'all have any suggestions on how to do reactions, like how the big YouTubers do it, let me know in the comments.
Hello there. Y'all all right? I know. It has been a tough week, right? And baby, it's been a tough 2025 and we are still in January. But I know many of you are asking and have asked and sent me messages about the recent DEI announcements at Target as well. And as disheartening as it is for me, I'm not the only one affected by this, right? It's for everyone who is a woman-owned business, minority-owned businesses, Black-owned businesses. It's for so many of us who work so very hard to be placed into retail, to finally be seen and approved for retail. Because contrary to whatever the world might tell you, it has been very hard for Black-owned businesses to hit shelves, right? Which is why.
And I'm going to stop right there just for a second, because she's right that it is hard for Black-owned businesses, probably especially Black-owned female businesses, to get in stores. Lip bar, which I think I have some lipstick from. I know I featured the lip bar in my book, The Book of Awesome Black Americans. And there's also Girl Plus Hair. I recently started buying Girl Plus Hair because I saw how they reacted to this boycott, and they decided to take their products out of Target and just sold them through their online store, which is one thing that I think people were surprised about with Tabitha's stuff, is because she does have a website for Donna's Recipe, her hair care, but she didn't have a website for her other products, and that's probably because those products were exclusive to Target. Uh, you can only buy them through Target, but it was interesting to a lot of people that she did not make products outside of Target, outside of Donna's Recipe, like that she did not have stationery and kitchenware and things like that that she was making to sell on her own site, um, and that she hadn't figured out a way to pivot to do that, or that she hadn't pivoted to do that, period. It was just interesting. Target needs her more than she might need Target, but it seemed like she felt like Target, that she needed Target more than the other way around, because she is the talent. So, you know.
Such a big deal when we do finally land inside of retail. So it is definitely heartbreaking to feel unsupported, right? However, I am in business in multiple ways, with Target, with Walmart, and Amazon, right? I sell Donna's Recipe, my hair care products, right, are on Amazon. They're also in Target. And of course, I have a huge partnership with Target. I sell my seasonings at Walmart. I do business all over. And what I can tell you is, if we all decide to boycott and be like, no, we're not spending no money at these organizations. Listen, I get it. And if that's how you feel, honey, I 1000% get it. But so many of us will be affected, and our sales will drop. Our business will be hurt. And if any of you know business, it doesn't just happen overnight where you can just go take all your stuff and pull it off the shelves. There's a process. And then you got to, like, where are you going to put it? You got to have a place to store it. That's money, right? You got to have another place to sell it, which is almost impossible sometimes. And even if you sell online, it's a process when it comes to business.
And this is where people, including myself, were confused for a lot of reasons, I feel like. First of all, saying that you understand why people are boycotting, but then in the same breath say, but there will be a lot of people, herself included, that will be affected if you don't shop in these stores. That is interesting phrasing to me, because, like, if you understand, then why are you still putting out a PSA to say still shop in the store? Which is how I'm hearing it. I know a lot of people have heard it differently. That's fine. But from what I heard, and from what it seems like a lot of people heard, she's saying, I understand that you don't want to shop in Target, but I still need you to shop in Target. And that's what rubbed people the wrong way, and really made people look at her differently. And it's sad to me that happened, and it didn't have to happen. It was an unforced error on her part, because she honestly didn't have to say anything, but she did. I also feel like this explanation of you have to have some place to store your products, you have to have, all this infrastructure. That's true. You do have to have all that infrastructure. And while I'm not a person who is running a business like that, so, maybe there's something I'm not understanding. But what's interesting to me is that, as someone who seems to be business oriented like Tabitha is, it's weird to me that she hasn't gotten the infrastructure by now. Like with all the Target money that she is hopefully making, I know there's talk about how much she could actually be making from the Target deals, um, and if the company is stiffing her any kind of money. But from what she is making, it would be, I would think that it would have been cool to see her put that money back into her business and create an infrastructure to where she can maybe one day not have these Target deals and uh, make her own line of cookware and her own line of, whatever else without having to be in Walmart or Amazon or Target. Um, I would just think that with the money that she was making, that she could invest in, a factory, like a small factory, or invest in some kind of way where she could start making her own products without the need of a big box store. So, and she clearly can do it because she's had Donna's recipe before she was even in any stores, before she was even in Ulta. So it just seems like there's a missed opportunity, and now that Target is doing its DEI rollback, that it sounded like she was making the cost of not reinvesting, or maybe even the fault of not reinvesting, um, passed on to the consumer, and I don't think that's fair. I mean, I feel like she would say that she wasn't saying that, but that's what it sounded like to me.
And everyone does not have the funds or the means or the availability, the space to house their own products, right?
And like that's what I was literally talking about. Yeah, a lot of small business owners probably don't have the space, but Tabitha, as far as I'm concerned, is no longer a small business owner. She's in Amazon and Walmart and Target. Like that's 3 big chains. And are you a small business owner at that point? Especially when you've won an Emmy? Like, I don't know. So, I feel like her name is big enough that when you hear Tabitha Brown, you don't think small business owner. We'll finish this.
But the thing that concerns me the most, and I want you to hear me and hear me well, if we all decide to stop supporting said businesses and say, I can't buy nothing from there, even the businesses who were affected by the DEI ban, right? What that does is you take all our sales and they dwindle down. And then those companies get to say, oh, your products are not performing. And they can remove them from the shelves and then put their preferred businesses on the shelves. And then what happens to all the businesses who've worked so hard to get where they are? Then what happens, right? Now, I know that something that could solve it is ownership of these big corporations, right? It's a long way to go there. There are amazing companies like the Village Market in Atlanta, right, who support small businesses, and you can go in there and there's some amazing things that you can buy, but it's one store and it's very small. We're talking about mass market. You can't build that overnight. Do we all sometimes have these big dreams and aspirations to do that? Absolutely, right? But it is easier said than done, but it's not impossible. But until then, and in order to get there, we unfortunately have to play the game. And in playing that game, we got to be smarter than the ones who think they're in control, okay? And I say that to say, don't allow trying to be mindful with how I say this, because I want God to give me the right words, but don't allow foolishness to take us into separation and weed us out. Do you understand?
Okay. I am not one to question what you think God is telling you, but I feel like the word foolishness is kind of interesting. um, Foolishness and separation. These sound like dog whistles to me, and I'll explain why. So, one thing I talk about um, in this article that I hope that you read, I'll have it linked in the description. Um, One thing I talk about in the article is A Face in the Crowd. If you haven't seen that movie, it's a 1950s movie starring Andy Griffith. I believe it's his first role ever. It's a great movie. He's playing this guy named Lonesome Rhodes, who is he's a singer, but he's also just someone who's like just floating through life. He was hopping from railroad to railroad until he got found by this woman who became his manager and like pseudo love interest. But in any case, he is a naturally charming person, and he was able to utilize his charm and his southern drawl and his talent to be able to win over the masses. And eventually, without spoiling anything in the movie, um, eventually he becomes a huge success, a huge star, even a huge political titan, to where he's like influencing elections and things like that. And all because he has the gift of gab, the gift of charm, to be able to sell you anything, tell you anything, uh, convince you of anything due to his folksy wit. And I feel like, without being too rude here, because I'm not trying to be rude at all, but I feel like there is a parallel in a way, and I feel like I can say this because I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. I know I don't have a total huge southern accent, but I feel like from southern person to southern person, that she being Tabitha is utilizing her southernness, her innate charm, her even some of her acting ability to tell things that are not whole truths. And again, sorry about it. But that's just how I feel about it. I feel like saying that, again, that in order to play smarter than the white man, that we have to buy from the white man, essentially, buy black products in white stores. That does not make a lot of sense to me, number one. Number two, it sounds, again, like line my pockets so we can pretend like we're all making it. And number three, that is the definition of modern black capitalism. And maybe just black capitalism as a whole. That's the definition of black capitalism, to think that if one of us makes it, if one of us is a millionaire, billionaire, then we are all millionaires and billionaires. When obviously that's not true. If we're buying her products, we're buying her products. She's the one that's getting the money, and she's getting her money after Target takes their cut of the money. So who's the one that's really at the top here? Is still Target. So that's why it's stuff like that that people were hearing in between the lines, in between the folksiness and the charm and the auntie energy and everything like that. And that's why people were like, no, I'm not buying anything from Target, not even your stuff.
Do you understand? Because sometimes that's what they want. And in times like this, they're telling us that. Okay? So as frustrating as I listen, as frustrating as the whole situation is, as frustrated as I am, as all of you are, we still got to be smart. Now, you can still go into those stores if you choose to and buy specific brands that you want to support and let the other things, right, not get your money. But be very specific. There's so many women, right, that have worked hard to be a woman-owned business. Donna's Recipe is two women, me and Gina Wu is my business partner. We are self-funded. We are self-funded. And we are on shelves in limited doors at Target, right? Other companies, right? There's a Black History Month is coming right now, and all of these brands are about to be showcased, some of them for the first time. And of course, they would do something like this right now, but they still need their moment. They still need our support. Only if you feel like you can and are willing to. I ain't telling you what to do. I'm telling you what, as a business owner, what we still need until we can get to another place, right? And I don't know when that other place will be. I know for me, I'm under contract. I'm gonna give it to you 100. I got another year. Then I make a decision. Okay. So many other businesses are just starting. They're just getting in. This is their big break to go to the next whatever phase of their business there may be. We have to have understanding and compassion for each other and not be in an emotional state, but also a smart state. Because if we start doing I'm not shopping there, and it's our businesses that are in there, that's their way that they will clean us out.
And again, that's the whole point of the boycott, is to say I'm not shopping there. So with the Black businesses that are in there, as harsh as it might be to say this, it's also, I mean, it's the cost of business at this point. Like, yeah, Target screwed them over. Target did screw people over. That's a fact. And it's a shame that Target decided to do that, right when they know that they have new Black businesses coming in, new contracts coming in, and they decide to do that. At the same time, as a consumer, I think a consumer, at least one like me, would be saying, I get that, I understand that, I'm sympathetic to that, I'm empathetic to that. At the same time, how is this my problem? You know, as a consumer, how is me shopping where I don't want to spend my money? Why is me giving my money to you helping this other situation, this larger situation with Target? That's where people are getting lost at with the idea of shopping at Target for specific items is somehow boycotting Target. Yes, there are some places where there is nothing else but a Target or nothing else but a Walmart, and you have to shop somewhere to get your groceries. I understand that. I'm not going against that. Because, I mean, even also with Amazon, some things you can't find and you just have to, you know, it's the cost of living in capitalism where you have to like pick and choose what you can do. With that said, Target is, out of the three, out of Walmart, Amazon, and Target is the most expendable of the companies, and the one that I feel like most of us, especially the ones of us that were in that bougie brunch culture. I mean, I've never been to brunch, but you know, like that cultural status, icon status, I want this status from going into Target, that kind of element of living. Like those of us that lived like that, we have the expendable income to be like, I'm not shopping at Target. Like we can say, I can choose where I shop at, and I can choose not to shop at Target. Um, so this idea of only shopping for the black owned stuff at Target is also to me a gateway to just shopping at Target, period. Because once you get your black owned products, let's say you start thinking, oh wait, I'm out of tissue paper, I need to get some more toilet paper. Oh wait, I'm out of bananas, I don't know, I need to get some more bananas. Soon you have a whole cart full of stuff when you just came in to get a Donna's recipe or a lip bar product. And let's talk about the products themselves. Like there are some products at Target that are in the grocery section, like Partake cookies. But even as something like Partake cookies, do you need cookies? That's not as important as buying milk, you know. Um, and a lot of the black owned products, at least from what I have seen and what I believe to be true, is that a lot of the black owned products are not products that you need on a daily basis. It's not like products like, well, like I said, like milk. It's not like there's a lot of black owned groceries that you just need to have that are in Target. It's not like there's a lot of products that are just, I can't live without this in Target that are made by black owned businesses. A lot of them are expendable products, because do you need 1,000 different hair care products? No. Do you need a lip bar lipstick? Technically, no. So it's that kind of thing to where it's like, if you do have a cart full of black owned products, does it add up to what you need for the week to survive? And I'm not saying not to buy them. I'm just saying like, or that they're not important in their own way. But I'm just saying that as far as shopping somewhere, like when you have money and you need to get stuff for tonight's dinner or for, you know, washing your clothes or whatever, a lot of the products that Target has that are by black owned businesses, I don't think line up in that category.
And replace us and say, well, your business is not performing. That's what people want. We can't give them what they want. Okay? I hope that this is making sense for somebody. And I know.
Let's see. But there are some other conversations that have sprung up with talking about the boycott and what it all means. And one of the things that I was really interested in was learning about Black capitalism and what it means for us today. Does it even matter? Do we even need it? It seems like, from what I looked up and from what my brain synthesized, that we don't need it because it's a fallacy. I'm reading from my article because I'd rather read the actual research than just say it off the top of the dome. So the word Black capitalism, the phrase Black capitalism, became popular in 1968 when President Nixon promised to help uplift the Black American population through programs, business programs in particular, to do away with the variety of economic and social issues Black people faced. As part of his initiative, he created the Office of Minority Business Enterprise. And later, the Carter administration continued this by giving loans, training, and it created a measure to ensure a fixed number of minority businesses that were contracted with the government. While Nixon's administration didn't see a ton of improvement among the Black American living experience, President Carter's administration oversaw Black businesses' biggest period of growth, with government business with Black firms almost tripling from $1 million to $2.7 million by 1980. So, as I go on in the article, I say how Black capitalism has become synonymous with Black excellence, which is something that I am not really a fan of. The perception, as far as what Black excellence is supposed to mean, they reinforce this idea that Blackness and Black excellence means Black consumerism, um, this idea of Black capitalism, the idea that if I make it, we've all made it, which is not true, because if one person has made it, that is one person who has made it. The rest of us are still counting our pennies. We're just all Black. You know, that one person might be Black and we're all Black, but that doesn't mean that we've all made it. And another thing about Black capitalism is that some people seem to use it as a shortcut to what they think is white acceptance. I feel like capitalism is clearly connected with the, I guess, white culture at large in America, because capitalism is American culture. A lot of people base their self-belief on how much money they make, on what they can afford, what they can buy, what they can do with their money, how they can use it to gain access to places and people that they wouldn't have had access to otherwise without it. I know one person that I talked about in this as an example was Snoop Dogg, which, but but Snoop Dogg has basically become someone who I think a younger version of Snoop Dogg would have railed against. Like, this version of Snoop Dogg would have been someone that young Snoop Dogg would have rapped about. Snoop Dogg nowadays is someone who has risen to a perceived whiteness level, first by befriending Martha Stewart, creating several businesses with her. That's how he started earning his veneer of whiteness, leading to white baby boomers, women especially, to accept him because Martha Stewart accepted him. And fast forward to now, he's on commercials. Well, as of the Olympics of 2024, he was on commercials everywhere. He was making business deals. He was, Uncle Snoop. He was on The Voice, earning even more love from people for showing his emotional side and crying and saying how certain contestants reminded him of his daughters and things like that. And he was riding high with everybody, me included. And then he had to perform at one of the events for the inauguration. And it's just like, why? Why did you do this? When you were against the man in the Oval Office before, you were totally against him, and now you're reforming for him. Make it make sense. One thing that's important for any Black capitalist who thinks that money is a way to get into white circles needs to remember is that that kind of access is never free. There's always a cost, and not just a monetary kind. It's the cost of your morals and your values and what you stand for. Are you using your money to enrich your community, or are you using your money to try to escape some perceived negativity of your race? To go back to some research, I read about Bayard Rustin and his views on Black capitalism, which I thought were very enlightening. And he basically would have hated Black capitalism, especially Black capitalism without guardrails and without deeper thinking attached to what it means. And for him, he wanted black capitalism to at least be a way to use the money to put back into the community. In the 60s and 70s, he wrote about black capitalism, saying, "There has been much talk recently about black capitalism as the new approach to solving the economic and social problems of Negro Americans." He also said, "I favor the notion of black people owning and operating businesses. And I should add in this regard that I find particularly the efforts that some Negroes have made to form cooperatives. Yet I think that these enterprises have had more of a psychological than an economic effect on black Americans. They have helped destroy the brutal stereotype that black people are not capable of engaging in entrepreneurial activity. But the economic impact of black capitalism has been and can only be marginal at best. And if we are not careful, this approach may actually compound the injustices from which Negroes suffer." He continues saying that we can't forget that businesses are in business not to attack social injustice, but to make a profit, and that the ghetto represents a poor market to invest in because of its poverty and deprivation. He also goes on to talk about how businesses can become attracted to the ghetto through tax incentives that guarantee them a high profit and which also ensure that they themselves and not the poor will be the prime benefactors of their investments. So even if black capitalists follow these rules, they'll be acting just like the white capitalists. That business owners, no matter how altruistic they want to be, will still think about their bottom line first, and that these individuals are a very small and affluent section of the Negro community. It is the black working poor and the unemployed who constitute the mass of Negroes in need of economic uplift. He also added that it was foolish and misleading to suggest that these people should become capitalists as well, as if capitalism can help them pull themselves out of an impoverished situation that America thrives upon. What Rustin wanted instead was for the majority of black people to join the American trade union movement, which is the institution most responsible for the integration of the black poor into the economic life of our society. Finally, he called black capitalism a dangerous and divisive trap and said, "I can think of nothing more potentially harmful to black people than the substitution of the delusion of black capitalism for the absolute necessity for federal programs to provide all Negroes with dignified employment, decent housing, and superior schools. Black people cannot ignore these objectives without forsaking the ultimate goal of economic liberation." So that hits at basically what I've been talking about this whole time, which is the idea that if one person makes it, we've all made it as a society or as a community. And that just is not true. If one capitalist who happens to be black makes it, that is just one capitalist who happens to be black. That is not the entire black community. Therefore, we need to think about where our money goes and how we spend it in order to best uplift the community as a whole. Now, of course, are we all individuals? Yes. Do we need black-owned businesses? Yes, because some people are just born to run businesses. Running a business is not evil. Running a business is not evil. Running a business is not, you're not inherently selling out or anything. You're just running a business. But if you are engaging in this idea of black capitalism as a way to reduce the harm that black people face, that's the ideology. That's the thing that needs to change. Because even if you are a black business owner, does that change how America views you? Not really. Not really. It's a lot, I think, for all of us as a community to always have to think about the community, but I feel like since we're in that situation, since we are in this environment where we have to think about each other, that it would make sense for us to try to utilize our dollars the best way we can to not only uplift each other, and to use it as a weapon to fight back against these ideologies that do keep us separated as people, to fight back against racism, discrimination, and anything else that's affecting us. Case in point, the Montgomery boycott. The Montgomery bus boycott was a boycott that brought about change in society on a state level, on a city wide level, and on a national level, as far as how Black people are perceived and how our collective strength is perceived. And it changed things in Alabama and in the world. We no longer have to ride at the back of the bus because of the Montgomery bus boycott. And all of that started because Black people were being taken advantage of, um, monetarily, because you have to pay money to ride the bus. And they were also being taken advantage of just by the nature of the Jim Crow laws that had them riding at the back of the bus. So, of course, the idea came about that if we're paying money to be subjugated like this, then why are we doing it? Let's not do that and force their hand to stop this discrimination. And that's what happened. And that's essentially what's happening with Target. We are trying to force Target's hand to stop the DEI rollback. Um, or if they don't stop, then they will lose all their money. And so that's the game here. And that's the game we're playing. So one thing I want to quickly talk about before I wrap up the video is Hearth in Hand, which I talked about earlier in the video. And I want to talk about this because I think it's important to recognize that the whole conversation about DEI is supposed to mean all people who are different in some kind of way. But there is racial hierarchy with Target and their deals. And I think it's interesting to note how, in a societal view, how one deal with Target is seen almost like a handout, and how another deal with Target is just seen as, normal business. And for me, a great example of that is Joanna Gaines, who you might know from HGTV and now from the Magnolia Network, I think it's called. And her line of products in Target has a huge section of the store. They had a huge rollout for Hearth in Hand. And, in full disclosure, I have a Hearth in Hand, like a box, like a storage box. So, I do like at least how her products look anyway. I don't buy them for a lot of reasons that I guess I'm getting into right now. But that one thing I did buy, I did like. So anyway, so Joanna Gaines has her section in Target, and it's really like a big portion of the store. And I think it's important to talk about why we don't think about Joanna Gaines when it comes to DEI, because she is actually part Asian. What's interesting to me is that when it comes to Joanna Gaines, she might be ethnically marginalized. Technically, she is marginalized. But because of her access to whiteness in various ways, through her ancestry, through her marriage, and through society, which often puts Asianness closer to whiteness, or there's this perceived connection of Asianness and whiteness that in reality does not exist, but societally we're made to believe that being Asian is closer to being white, which is not true. But through that idea and through these other methods of equating to whiteness, she is perceived by the society at large as being legitimate. And that's not to say that the other business owners aren't legitimate. In fact, what I am saying is that every business owner is legitimate. But the problem is that with Target, as we have seen with how they do roll out their black owned businesses, it's usually during Black History Month. It's kind of like it's microdosed in a way. Like the products don't take up half of the store like Hearth and Hand does. Um, there's not this big rollout or big excitement like there is with Joanna Gaines' products. And a lot of other white owned businesses that are in Target aren't thought of as white owned businesses. They're just thought of as businesses. Whereas black owned businesses and Asian owned businesses, Latino owned businesses have these qualifiers that make it seem like, oh, that's that kind of business. That's not a business. And that's all fake. Like, these are all businesses, but this is the racial hierarchy that I'm trying to explain. And someone like Joanna Gaines, who is squarely in the middle of all of this, is forced in a way to choose which side she's going to be on. And I feel like, if I can be so bold as to say, I feel like she's had to choose her entire life. And so the choice is to side with the white side. And that is why she is not seen as a part of the DEI conversation, even though technically she should be. So, with all that said, what can we take away from all this when we talk about the Target boycott? First of all, I think we can say that the Target boycott has been successful and is still being successful and is still ongoing. Target has lost $12 billion since January. That's a whole lot of black money that they have not seen. And they will continue to lose that money. I think it reinforces the power of the black dollar. How our money actually moves this economy. And it would behoove the companies, the stores that have seen what has happened to Target to push pause on any rollbacks that they're trying to do, because you could lose a bunch of money. Now, as far as Walmart and Amazon are concerned, people are boycotting them as well. However, I think one thing that I want to end this video on is just addressing the argument of, well, if we're boycotting Target, then how come no one's boycotting Amazon and Walmart? That just shows that we don't even need to be boycotting Target. And y'all don't care about the boycott. Y'all are just saying stuff. That's overlooking the reality of food deserts, of all the economic issues that go into why there's only one Walmart in a neighborhood that is supposed to help feed and clothe an entire neighborhood. Because Walmart, and by extension Amazon to a degree, but Walmart is a predatory company. Amazon is a predatory company too. I'm just saying, since they're mostly online, they are a little different in this way, but Walmart is a predatory company. Walmart will buy out its competition. It'll make it so that you only have one place to shop. And so that's why it can be difficult to boycott a place like Walmart for a lot of people, because that's the only place they have to shop for all of their groceries, not to mention any other things you might need. That's the reality. And even with Amazon, Amazon does some predatory stuff too, so that it can be at the top of the food chain with whatever you might need. Let's not even talk about how Prime gets your stuff here, in a day or two. Or if you have your medicine with Amazon Pharmacy, or anything else that is pertinent to your life that might go through Amazon. So it's these kind of companies that are so predatory in how they work that it makes it hard to boycott them because you do need stuff from them. Um, and so we have to recognize that reality. However, that doesn't mean that you can't do anything. You can, instead of spot shopping at Target, you can spot shop at Walmart and Amazon. Like, just get the things that you know you need because you know you can get your groceries there. And if that's all you need, then that's all you get. And spot shopping at places like that works. Um, Shopping as little as possible there works. And they have lost money through that avenue. Um, they're feeling the effects of their boycotts as well. So it's not like things aren't happening with them either. But overall, I think what we can learn from the Target boycott is just how powerful the Black dollar and the Black community is, and how important the Black community is to America. We cannot say that America's economy was not built on Black bodies or the Black dollar. Um, in many ways, the Black body is the Black dollar. So that's why it's so important to us to know where we're putting our money, because we're literally putting ourselves on the line. Thank you for watching this video today. I'm so glad that you were able to listen to what I had to say about Target today. What do you think about the Target boycott? And what do you think about Black capitalism or anything that we discussed in this video? Let me know below. And also, please follow me at Just Add Color Online on Facebook, Threads, Instagram, and please visit my website, justaddcoloronline.com. Also, if you're in the market for a book, please check out my book, The Book of Awesome Black Americans, which I'll link below. It's an all-ages book about some of the little-known Black inventors, innovators, historical figures, and some well-known ones, and their contributions to American society. I'll have the link for that in the description below. I'm also developing a workshop called Breaking the Script: How Media Shapes Our Perceptions and What We Can Do About It, where I talk about how we can break down the messages in media, fight against it, and help the next generation not be so susceptible to what we might have had to experience growing up. I know I had to experience a lot when it came to body issues, and that really kind of messed me up in a way. And so I think some of that is what led me to talk about race and culture like I do today. If you want to learn more about that workshop and when it'll go live, please visit the link in the description to sign up for my newsletter. I hope you have a great day, and thanks again for watching.